On to part D. If we let k equal 6, so that f of x is equal to 1 over x squared minus 6x, we want to find the partial fraction decomposition for f, and then find this integral. So two things. Partial fractions, so we'll say f of x is equal to 1 over x squared minus 6x. And the idea with partial fractions is I want to split the denominator. And so I'm just going to sort of hope, or it will work out, that if I factor this denominator, that's going to be x times x minus 6. So there better be a way to have some fraction over x plus another fraction which is over x minus 6, and the fraction a over x and b over x minus 6, that when I add them together, get a common denominator, it's going to equal 1 over x squared minus 6x. And now I just sort of go through some of the work you've seen sort of way back when, getting a common denominator. So I'm going to multiply this first fraction by the missing factor in the denominator, which is x minus 6, and multiply the second fraction by the missing denominator, which is x, and I will get ax minus 6a plus bx all over x times x minus 6. Just sort of, once they have a common denominator, which is x minus 6, then I can add them up. And now I just pair things off, so I know that ax and bx are the two terms on this side that have x's. And there are no x terms up here, so these have to add up to 0. Or, more simply put, a plus b must equal 0. And the only constant term, this a is going to be a constant literal value, is negative 6a on that right-hand side. So I know that negative 6a equals, and I have this one up here. Now, I don't need to change anything there, so I'm just going to rewrite it. So I have negative 6a. And this is an extremely easy system to solve. I'll just go through it. We already have this in terms of one variable, so I know right off the bat that a is equal to negative 1/6. And then over here, if a is negative 1/6 and a plus b equals 0, I have negative 1/6 plus b equals 0. b will equal positive 1/6, which means that f of x equals negative 1/6 over x plus 1/6 over x minus 6. That's the partial fractions. And now I can go ahead and find the integral. So the integral, or the antiderivative of f of x dx, will equal the antiderivative of negative 1/6 over x plus 1/6 over x minus 6 dx. And many things I can do here. I'm going to split it up and factor out the numerators. So that's going to be negative 1/6 times the antiderivative of 1 over x dx plus 1 over 6 times the antiderivative of 1 over x minus 6 dx. And antiderivative of 1 over x is the natural log of the absolute value of x. So I have negative 1 over 6 times the natural log of the absolute value of x. The antiderivative of 1 over x minus 6 is the natural log of the absolute value of x minus 6. I could get there by u substitution. So I have plus 1 over 6 natural log of the absolute value of x minus 6. And we were doing an indefinite integral or an antiderivative, so I need to have the arbitrary constant c. So there we have it. Just sort of scribble out some of this stuff so we can see it clearly. Negative 1/6 natural log of absolute value of x plus 1/6 times natural log of absolute value of x minus 6 plus c.